An intriguing question about the Giants training camp when it opens up on the 25th. What would they do with Jeremy Shockey? Well, the mystery is now over. Jeremy Shockey will be opening training camp in 2008 with the New Orleans Saints as their new tight end after the Giants and the Saints have agreed in principle to make an exchange. Jeremy Shockey goes to the Saints with a second and a fifth round draft choice in next year's draft, going to what is currently the defending Super Bowl champs. We all know that the Giants went on that run, improbable run, to the Lombardi Trophy last year without the services of Jeremy Shockey, who got hurt in the latter stages of the regular season. Adam Schefter joins us from league headquarters in New York. And Adam, this was a rumored trade all throughout draft weekend. It didn't happen during draft weekend. It happens right now on the eve of training camp. What can you tell us?
Rich, I spent much of the afternoon on the phone with Saints and Giants officials, and essentially the Saints rekindled the trade talks that were going on during draft week. The trade gets done. Jeremy Shockey is now a New Orleans Saint. The two sides agree to a trade in principle. The Saints get Shockey, who will bolster their offense, and the Giants in return get second and fifth round draft picks. Now, the Giants were scheduled to report to training camp on Thursday, and Jeremy Shockey was planning on being there despite the question marks that might have accompanied his attendance. He was planning to be there, but his greater wish was to be traded. The Giants satisfied that wish. On Monday, they finally dealt him to the New Orleans Saints. The Saints feel like they've given up a little bit less than the Giants were asking for on draft day when the two sides were close to making a deal back then. And also keep in mind, the Giants were shopping Jeremy Shockey in recent days and weeks because they even had some discussions with the Miami Dolphins in regards to potentially dealing him for Jason Taylor. But ultimately, the Giants wound up dealing him to the Saints for second and fifth round draft picks in 2009.
And of course, everyone was talking about that Shockey to Miami trade because Shockey, as we all know, is a Miami Hurricane, and the Giants without the services now of Michael Strahan. That would have been very nice to plug Jason Taylor in there, but Jason Taylor is now a Washington Redskin, and I imagine the tight end position in New York now belongs to Kevin Boss, the rookie last year who fared very well after Shockey broke his leg in that Sunday night game against the Washington Redskins in Week 15. I imagine this is now the Boss particular.
Well, Rich, I think a lot of people are going to look to Kevin Boss right now. But the thing to remember here is he had the great catch in the Super Bowl, the huge catch in the second half that helped the Giants to that victory. But remember, he had only 9 catches during the regular season last year, so the Giants are counting an awful lot right now on Kevin Boss, who has not produced over the course of a full season, and the Giants don't exactly have a lot of depth at the tight end position as they get set to embark for Albany, New York later this week in training camp. So there is some depth concern for the Giants at the tight end position, but Kevin Boss will be the starter right now, taking the place of Jeremy Shockey, who is now a New Orleans Saint.
With Shockey not being on the scene last year and Boss faring well, there were a lot of people who thought that that was an addition by subtraction, that Shockey, with a lot of his gesticulating and arm waving whenever Eli Manning was missing him or not throwing his way, was something that was stunting Manning's growth, and without Shockey, Manning fared well. Where do you stand on that subject?
Well, Rich, I think that you saw what the Giants did in the playoffs. Eli Manning elevated his game, the likes of which we hadn't seen before, and the Giants' offense seemed to perform better without Jeremy Shockey. I think that's undeniable, but it also is undeniable that Jeremy Shockey is a supreme talent. He's fiery, he's competitive, he brings a lot of intensity to practice and to games, and he will be a tremendous weapon for the New Orleans Saints and Drew Brees in that passing offense. When you start to look at the Saints and the weapons that they have there with Reggie Bush and Marcus Colston and some of the players that they have, Jeremy Shockey is going to fit in very well. There's a reason that New Orleans was so anxious to get Shockey on draft day and continue to eye him from afar, recently calling the Giants to see if they would be interested now in dealing with him. And I think that one of the reasons the Giants' stance changed a bit is because when Jeremy Shockey came to the mandatory minicamp, I think there were some strained feelings. There really was a strained relationship between the two sides, and the Giants figured off that they would be better right now aborting that relationship, allowing Jeremy Shockey to go on to New Orleans and getting as much back in return as they could. They get the second and the fifth round picks.